Welcome to Motherhood and Podcast. This is season 2, and today we have Gracie from Honey I'm Homesteading here with us. She's our first ever guest on the podcast, and we are so excited to talk to her and learn from her, hear about her story, and we're just so excited to bring you along with us. I am Anna from That Switched Up, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host Sophia from Foster's Homestead. And we're just going to dive right in. Hello, Gracie. How are you?
Hi, guys. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so excited to talk to you today. I think we have been trying to get this going for a couple weeks now. We had some technical issues the last time around, and then today again, but we are here. We're recording, so we're excited to be talking to you. So I'm going to dive right in and just ask you, what is it that you want to tell us about yourself, a little bit about who you are, how you got started with Honey I'm Homesteading, and since this is Motherhood and Podcast, maybe a little bit about yourself as a mother and your motherhood journey, what brought you into motherhood.
Yeah, that's a lot of loaded question, but I think I can start with the journey to motherhood thing, given this is, Motherhood and Podcast. So I was a very young mom. My first child was, I was 19 when he was born, and I had already been, married for a year. I got married very, very young when I was 18 years old. And so by our, just a week or two before our 1-year anniversary, we already had a newborn baby. And so that was definitely interesting. I was obviously the first one of my friends and, to be a mom, and there was a lot going on in my family at the time and at our church and everything. There was so much happening during that time that I was just talking about this to my husband. I kind of felt like I was in survival mode when I became a mom. And so there was just, a go, 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 go mentality. We were, we'd only been married for a year, so I would still consider us kind of newlyweds when we had our son. And I had always been around babies. My sister's 7 years younger than me, so I helped out a lot, with her. And so I was very familiar with babies, and I was a nanny as well for a couple years. But having one of your own is just completely different. And we were trying to start a completely new lifestyle as well. So on top of, I've only been a wife for 1 year. And then now I have a newborn. Our property was on fire while I was giving birth to our son, so that was a super exciting weekend. We couldn't come back to our house after I had given birth to our son because everything we owned was covered in ashes, and I obviously was not physically able to come home and clean up our entire property because I had just given birth. So my intro to motherhood was pretty dramatic, I would say. Unfortunately, I was very young as well. We had just started going to a new church, and my family was mourning the loss of a 2-year-old that was very special to our family. He was my little cousin, and so there was a lot of conflicting emotions there. I was mourning. I was in deep mourning for my cousin just a few months before I had my own first child, and so there was just a lot of survival mode. You just put your work boots on and you figure it out as you go, kind of a thing. And my son is the best kid ever. And I really feel like we have a really good friendship. And I didn't realize how young I was at the time. At the time I was I have this, I'm an adulty adult, but now looking back, I'm oh my gosh, I was a kid. I was a kid when I had my kid. And so I feel like we kind of, he taught me just as much as I've taught him. I think motherhood will show you every part of your heart that you need to give to the Lord, because it's just, it changes you. It changes you a lot. And it changed me a lot physically as well. So I had I wasn't into health or homesteading, or, I lived off iced tea and hot Cheetos. And I think when you have a baby, it really does make you look at every aspect of your life of, is this beneficial to this child that I am now in charge of? Now this is my, this is my son. And it really makes you look inward and think about, what are the choices that I'm making? How is that reflecting on, what he's going to grow up learning as is good and normal for himself. So my intro to motherhood was definitely super dramatic. Like I said, I was in the hospital, and my husband actually had to leave the hospital because we were being evacuated. And he had to run back up the hill, throw everything we own in the car, and then come back down to the hospital. And when he came back, he was covered in fire retardant, because that's how close he was to the flames. Like, he had red on his glasses and on his shirt. They were like, the firefighters were like, no, you have to leave, like, get out. So all the things we got from the baby shower, he was trying to grab them. It was just very, very dramatic. And I was sitting there with my newborn in the hospital, and the nurse was like, so are you going to go home today? And I pointed to the television, and I was like, that's my property. It's on fire. I can't go home today. I don't even know if I'll have a home to go home to. So it was very stressful. It was very stressful. But we graciously had family that let us use their house. They were on a 3-month vacation, so that worked out really well for us. We just stayed in their house. And that was my first day of motherhood. My house was burning down. So I think, Anna, you had a question.
Wow, that is such a crazy introduction to motherhood. I can only imagine being in your shoes. And I'm sure that there is so much more to that story. That's, obviously just the opening glimpse of, your intro to motherhood. And how old are you now, that you you've had your, first child at 19?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm 27 now, and we have 5 children now. I've got 2 boys. Their birthdays are next month, and they'll be 8 and 6. And then I have 3 girls aged 4, 2, and 8 months.
I love that. And I know just from following you on Instagram that you have received a lot of backlash for the number of children that you have, especially being as young as you are, and all the comments about polluting the earth and just crazy, crazy things that I know people would never say to your face. Although
Oh
they
no, they would
may. I
say it to
mean,
your
there are
face.
some people who I think are rude enough to say it to your face. But it's just so wild to me what the internet allows them to, what people feel like they can do behind a screen and what they feel like they have the right to tell you. And I don't know if you want to dive into that at all, how people have treated you, especially with having such a public platform, with the way that you live your life and what motherhood looks like for you.
Yeah, no, I don't mind touching on that. That's fine. It's honestly quite a big part of my day is dealing with the backlash. I've been called names I won't repeat on here, to respect your podcast, but people have called me a breeder. They've called me all kinds of yucky things that I don't even want to repeat. And I think that honestly, it's because I've had family members reach out to me. They're like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Did you see what they said? And I just start laughing because it honestly, you just get to a point where you're like, oh, I wonder who's going to threaten me today. Like, it's just such a part of my day and my morning to wake up to, yucky messages. And honestly, it just makes me feel sad for them because I firmly believe that children are a blessing. And I know for a fact that I'm stewarding the land, as best as I can, as best to my abilities. And my son is really into the wild parks. He's really into Nature Conservancy and all of that stuff. And so we are raising. It's really ironic to me that people say, we're polluting the earth, we're overpopulating, we're using up all these resources, and they're saying it to me from their smartphone, that they're probably sitting in their air-conditioned house telling me, how horrible I'm being for the earth, and they don't see the irony in that. And for me, it's like, we grow our own dairy and eggs and meat, and we have gardens and we compost, and we're very, very aware of our, trash that we use and all that kind of stuff. And I'm raising children in such a way that they are being raised to know how to steward the land and to work the land and to give back to the land and we're really big on regenerative farming here. Hopefully we can talk a little bit more about that later, but that's how we're raising our children. We're raising them to make an impact on the earth in a positive way. We always say that the only thing that we take are pictures and the only thing we leave are footprints. And we're really into, stewarding this earth well. As far as overpopulation, I mean, we could talk about, that's like a whole nother podcast, but we could talk about that, for hours. And here in California, the birth rate's at an all-time low, lower than it was during the Great Depression. So I just, whatever. I don't even pay attention to those comments anymore. I think that when I first started my page, back when I still had some small faith in the people on the internet, I think that there was someone who told me that they were glad that I had a miscarriage because I didn't deserve to be a mom. And that I tried to message them and reached out to them. I asked them if they wanted, to talk about that more, that if they were struggling in their life, if they needed any kind of prayer. And I eventually just had to block them because they were just being so nasty, so yucky to me. And it really sat with me. And I made a reel about it probably 2 years ago now at this point. And I think that after that, scenario that I went through, it really opened my eyes to some people they're not willing to hear truth at all. And any ounce of truth, it actually becomes offensive to them because they're so set on hating children and they're so set on hating mothers. They're really set on hating anything good that God has given to his people. And for me, I no longer get angry. I just pray for that person and I block them and I move on with my day, because what more can you really do? I've reached out to a couple trolls in the past, and one time it actually went very well and they really were in a dark place and they did need prayer. And I'll reach out to them privately, and sometimes and also people have let me know, sometimes it's just a bot. Like if you go and there's no followers and there's no posts, a lot of the times it's literally just AI spitting out hateful comments to anyone who has a Christian-based page or a motherhood-based page. And so I've learned that as well, through my I think I've been on Instagram for a little under 3 years. So 2.5 years I've been online, and I'm not super tech savvy at all. I have to learn every single day. And, running my page now has been, it's been a blessing, but it did definitely take a toll in the beginning because I didn't realize, I've lived a very sheltered, a very sheltered life. And so when you put your life out there for the world to see, and, my page isn't astronomically large, but I have, over the course of a month, there's 1 million or so people who are seeing my page, and you're going to have people who don't agree with you, and that's fine. That's okay. I always welcome disagreement, and I always say on my page, you're welcome to disagree, but you're not allowed to disrespect. So there are certain words that I don't allow on my page, and I will, block that person. I think if you are a person who is listening to this and you want to, put your motherhood journey online, and that's something that you would like to do, be really heavy with the block button and don't feel bad about it. Delete comments, block people. Sometimes that's what you have to do to just protect your space and to protect your kids. If someone wants to come for me, I normally let them, whatever. I'm not perfect. We can disagree. That's fine. But I do draw the line at when people are saying things about my children. And that's when I will step in and delete those comments and remove that person from being able to see my stuff. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't stand there, in public and let someone say something about my kid. I'm not going to do it online. So that's kind of how I address the many hate comments that I get.
You are certainly more noble than I to reach out to some of these trolls. Because I've seen some of the things that people say to you, and I don't know, exactly who it is that you're reaching out to privately, and you're not. because I will say I have personally appreciated your approach to social media. I think you are so engaging with people on both sides of the matter, and I love how you engage with your community, and I love how you question the trolls, and sometimes you troll the trolls back. And some of the reels that you share are absolutely hysterical, and they make my day. I love watching them. Um, so
Thank you. That's so
good on
sweet.
you for for having a good philosophy, you know, surrounding that. And just to, point back to what you were saying as far as, what people say about your children and your family, I 100% agree. And I know that I speak for me and Sophia both here that children are a blessing from the Lord. And the things that people say in that regard is truly just an evidence of the godless society that we live in. And that's
Hmm.
so saddening and disappointing, to see that that is the world that we live in. But I think that that is all the reason more why we need to be raising up children who are going to wave that banner high and, be good in the world. And we are raising up the next generation. And I think you're doing a wonderful job of that from all that I can see. So, and tying into that, what would you say being a homesteader, there's a lot that you do just in your work at home, and
Yeah.
not counting what you do online, and then helping other people with their homesteads.
Hmm.
What do you find to be the most challenging thing being a mom of several young children and being responsible for all of that work?
Yeah, it's a lot. My kids are all under the age of 8, and so there are a lot of needs. And this is something that is not going to look this. I'm a person who really, really thrives on routine, and I think that motherhood has shown me that not every day is going to look the same, and that's okay. It's okay to be flexible. It's okay to, I'm a very type A personality. And so God gave me 5 children, and then he laughed at me because children don't care about, your checklists, your time frames that you would like on doing things. And I say that with love, but they do not care one bit. And so our children are all under the age of 8. We have a dairy cow, we have chickens, we have sheep, we have a garden that needs tending, we have a house that we are building, and then I also have my online community that I am primarily, the one running it, and getting to help other people with set up their homesteads as well, which has been such an honor for me. And I think that a lot of times I would say that if you can have a good morning, you can have a good day. I feel like there's a lot of mornings that just kind of, if I'm not super on top of things during the morning, I can see that trickling into the rest of our day. I think a good start is probably the thing that I prioritize. And sometimes you can have a great start to your day and the day still kind of just, flies off the handle. The nice thing about my community is I am in charge of the hours, that I put into it. I'm in charge of, when I show up. I'm in charge of, I can set my own schedule. My students can look at my calendar and schedule when they want to do calls. So that's very helpful to me, as well as that's kind of taken a little bit of figuring out over the years, especially because our children are so young. My husband's incredibly involved. He's incredibly helpful. I'm very, very thankful for him. He has all 5 of them right now as I'm doing this podcast. And so was actually able to go down to part-time, which has been a huge blessing to our family. And to, the endeavors that I have here through social media. And so he's home more than he's gone. And so I really, I can't sit here and say, well, I do all of these things. I don't. I have so much help. My husband is tremendously helpful. We're out milking the cow together. The kids gather the eggs. The kids help, and he helps so much with the garden. It's not just me. I'm not a one-woman show. My husband and children are not on my social media account. It's just not. We did not want our children lives to be, publicized any more than they already are, and that's fine. So I think that I apologize to my followers for this, because I inadvertently came across as like a one woman show, like, oh, she does this and she does that and she does this and she does that. And that's just not my vibe that I wanted to be putting out there. And so I made a reel, and I just talked about, anything that you see me doing, just know that there's 5 littles in tow helping me, and there's a really amazing spouse by my side as well. They're just not in front of the camera, because that's not something that any of them want. And I think that having that support system, I know everybody doesn't have that. I've talked to many, many women, and I know that I'm extremely blessed to have that. So I definitely want to give that its due of just the balancing act that I have. There's a lot more than just these 2 hands. There's my husband holds a lot of things. My mom holds a lot of things. This is like everything that you see me accomplish here. Yes, I put in, 14, 16, 18-hour days. Yes, I'm also out there, with frozen hands, but it's not just me. And I really want to make that clear, because I will have women message me like, I just don't know how you do it all. And I'm like, I don't. I have so much help. I have such a great support system. And I'm working just as hard as the person next to me, but the person next to me is also working just as hard. So unfortunately, I'm the one in front of the camera. My kids are way cooler than I am, but to protect their privacy, I'm the one that just kind of, talks about what's going on our homestead and stuff. And I'm happy to help people. I'm happy to answer questions. Being able to watch my students start from where we started, just with nothing, with no previous knowledge, and then to also get the updates like, hey, I had my first butcher day today, or I have a garden now and we're canning our tomatoes. Like, it is such an honor for me to even be included in someone else's journey. It's just so neat to me to be able to be present, to see change in people's lives. And that to me is an honor, because they don't have to share that stuff with me. They could go do my course and just go about their merry way, but they come back and they tell me, the progress that they've had. And it's so rewarding for me to know that that family now has skills that will be passed down through the generations, because I didn't have, elders teaching me. I didn't have that generational wealth or not wealth, the generational knowledge I didn't grow up this way. My parents didn't grow up this way. My grandparents didn't grow up this way. So I had to learn everything, on my own by myself. And there's a lot of value in that, but there's also a lot of hardship that comes with learning that way and not having someone to come beside you. And you have to learn a lot of things the hard way, and for my students, it's been really nice to be able to be that person in their life that I didn't have, so they can message me, they can call me and say, hey, I don't know what to do here. And I'm able to give them a scenario. There's only so many things you can read about in books, but until you have a little chick who you're not sure what's wrong with it, you can read about how to take care of chicks, but you can't know what you don't know. It just doesn't work that way. There's so many things that experience teaches us. And if you don't have somebody in your life who's been there, done that, you can only Google search so much, so it's been a privilege for me to be able to talk to so many women and moms who are, teaching their children how to garden. And for me, that's something that I would say it's like learning how to ride a bike, but it's better than that, because it's a skill that will actually could potentially sustain your life. Growing your own food, harvesting your own food. Those are skills that not a lot of people, especially here in California, not a lot of people grew up with, and not a lot of people know. And if you don't know something, then you can't pass it along. You can't pass along what you don't know. So for me, it's not just the women that are coming to me, it's also the women's families. It's like you said, we're raising the next generation. And if a mom doesn't know how to cook or doesn't know how to garden, doesn't know how to raise chickens, then she can't pass those things along. And I think that's kind of what our society depends upon. They depend upon, well, nobody knows how to secure their own food. And you'll hear me say this, I've said it a million times, but whoever controls your food controls you. And I don't know a single mom who wouldn't do what they needed to do to feed their baby. And, we're seeing here in California, Food is becoming more and more and more messed with, more and more and more expensive, and I want good quality food on everybody's table. That's my goal. That's, if I had a goal with how I started my homesteading page, that would be it. I want kids who have bellies full of real nutritious food. That's my goal.
I love that you're becoming, in a big way and a small way, becoming the community that some women don't have, because I'm realizing how important it is, especially having a baby, to have the community, and some people aren't blessed enough to have that. So I love that you're being that for them. And I would love to hear you talk about your milk cow, because is it a boy? It's a girl. It's a girl. Boys don't give milk. That's a dumb question.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to laugh at you, but that was pretty funny.
No, it's fine. That's a dumb question. Okay. Your girl, I think it's at like 4 million.
Say, I'm glad you're the one who asked that and not me, because it probably would have came out of my mouth.
Oh,
it's too
my
fun.
It's okay, I can take the embarrassment. But I think the video about your milk cow has about 4 million views, and that's the one that I think popped up on my For You page when I first saw you.
Okay.
And Anna and I were talking about it. She was like, these people think that she's like abusing this milk cow and all these hate comments. And so I would love to hear the story about you rescuing her and actually giving her a better life.
Yeah, so Sunday, that's her name. Sunday, like ice cream Sunday, not the weekday Sunday. Sunday is our family milk cow, and she is really the backbone of the homestead. So she is a sassy Jersey. She lets you know, she knows that she's the queen of the homestead. She eats it up. And we got her from a dairy farm up north, in Northern California. And she was a cull cow, which means that she was 3 years old, and her milk production started to drop. And by drop, I mean she now gives 3 gallons a day, not 4 gallons a day that most commercial dairies are looking for. And if you're not familiar with the dairy industry, cows who have aged out, so 3-year-old cows, will be sold for meat, sold for parts, basically. So ground beef is a lot of times in stores, they are cull dairy cows. So anyway, she was, set up, that was going to be her fate. She was this old cow, which if you're not familiar with cows, they can be milked well above 15 years of age. So there's really no reason that I can see to cull a perfectly good dairy cow. So we saw an ad on Craigslist. There's a farm section in Craigslist. A lot of people don't know that, but it's a great place if you're looking for animals or farm stuff. But we saw an ad on Craigslist. She was about 9 hours north of us, and I didn't know logistically how it was going to work, but I saw her picture and I just knew. I was like, that's our cow. We've talked about getting a dairy cow in the past, and we were never really ready for it. We didn't have the infrastructure at all. I had no business messaging this person because we didn't have a stanchion, we didn't have a cow pen, we didn't have fences, we didn't have anything. We had bare land, and that was it. And I messaged this person and I said, how much do you want for your Jersey? She looks super healthy. Asked a couple more questions that I would really recommend asking before you just buy a cow. There's a lot of questions you should ask, but she did not have a calf with her. So if, in the dairy industry, when the calves are born, the males are slaughtered that day, and they don't want to take the time or the money, really, it all pretty much comes down to money, but they don't take the money to feed the bull calves, and the heifers will be separated from their moms after 4 days. And so she did not have her calf with her because she had already been lactating for 2 months, I believe, when we got her. And so we purchased her. We purchased a bull calf that we were hoping she would adopt. She had a pretty docile manner, so I was very hopeful that she would adopt this male bull calf, and she did. They were the best of friends, and she nursed him just fine. She came, made the long 9-hour drive down here. We had 2 weeks to get ready. So my husband built a cow pen and a stanchion and an enclosure for her so that she could graze in 2 weeks, which is insane because we really didn't have help. It was us. It was us with shovels at 2 a.m. digging fence posts. It was in like one of the craziest weeks of our lives. And we were just out there all day, every day. I mean, kids, tractors. My dad came up for a little bit and his brother came up for a little bit one of the days because the cow was coming, ready or not. And I don't know if you know this about cows, but they're not house trained. So we couldn't just bring her inside with us. And we had no structure at all. So my husband we call our farm Frankenstein Farms as a joke. It's not like our official farm name, but because all of our stuff is repurposed materials, all of it. So there's a reel that I have up about how we built our chicken coop. It's all repurposed materials. I haven't made a reel about the cow pen, and I really need to because the way that he designed it was just brilliant. Everything is repurposed. There's not a new thing on that cow pen, and it's been super sturdy. And we also now have 2 lambs on pasture in it. It's been great. It's been wonderful. So we had 2 weeks. We were out there like crack of dawn until well after dark, getting ready for Sunday to come. And she came. She was very skittish when she got here. And it broke my heart because I went to go grab a pitchfork to just muck out her stalls, clean her stalls, just like we do every day. And I must have grabbed it too quickly because she completely spooked and bolted, like took off. And it broke my heart because I realized like she thought I was going to whack her with it. Like she thought I was going to hit her with the pitchfork. And it just broke my heart to know that she had been conditioned that, humans aren't safe. Humans with tools are not safe. And it just made me so sad. And so she is now here and she's thriving. She's so happy. When cows are happy, they will like trot a little bit and kick up their back legs. And she's a big old mama. She is not a small lady. She's like probably 900 pounds. And she was so happy when we got her. So we first just kept her in the cow pen. It was a new area. She had never had that much space before, and we didn't want her to just get overwhelmed. And we kind of wanted to see how our natural pasture did with her. Because I was out there identifying all the plants in our pasture. Pasture health is super important if you're thinking about getting a cow. They can't just like eat anything. So you want to check, what native plants you have. She did great with the grass and didn't have any kind of reaction to it, and left some of the weeds alone. So I was a little bit concerned because we had a little bit of fiddle's neck, but she just completely ignored it, which was great. So then we gave her the much, much bigger space that she now has now, and we let her out onto, we're still fencing in the full pasture. We've got 12 acres here, so it's quite a large area to get fencing around. But she's just so happy and she's thriving. You can see in the video how we have so much cream from her, and happy cows will let down their cream, but cows who are struggling will not. They'll hold it back for their calves. Their milk production will drop. So we know that she's happy. She's very friendly. She's also very sassy. She will let you know if she's not happy with you. We never have to wonder what Sunday's thinking. She'll tell us. But I think that people have been conditioned to think that dairy animals are inherently, like you're keeping them from the wild, which is a little bit funny to me. There are no wild Jerseys. The breed of cow that we have does not exist in the wild. They essentially now, because of the way that humans have interacted with them, they have to have human intervention or it's actually not safe for them. So when I get those comments, I know that they're just uninformed people. There are no wild Jerseys. That doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. they need human intervention. Jerseys were actually bred to produce more milk than a calf would take. And so if you don't milk them, they will actually get mastitis, which is life-threatening. They'll get engorged. They'll have all kinds of other issues. And so now we have, and this was thousands of years ago, by the way. So people are like, well, just stop breeding them. Well, it's too little too late. And if you've ever seen a cow in heat, you're not going to stop that cow from getting pregnant no matter what you do. You could put a brick wall in front of her in the bull and they will find a way. They're animals, so it's not, people always say, I'm forcing my cow to get pregnant. I think I made a reel about that as well. And I was like, if you've ever had a cow, you know that there's no forcing involved here. They are determined to get pregnant. So I think we're really removed from just the animal kingdom and how it works. And people have watched a lot of movies where animals have human characteristics and animals have human goals. And after spending a couple months with Sunday, I can confidently say that her one and only goal is to get pregnant. That is her dream in life. And we are actually, to the point where she was charging her own calf. So they're animals. They're not people. They don't react the way that people react. And I don't even know how many women I've had message me saying, oh my gosh, the chickens, I can't. We're going to have to, give every chicken its separate coop. And I'm like, they're not people. The pecking order is brutal. Like, it is brutal to watch. I will give you that. We have one chicken that has a name, and its name is Large Marge, and she is in charge, and she will let all the other chickens know that she is in charge. And they're not people. Chickens are brutal to each other. And I think that we've watched Chicken Little, and we've watched what's that other one? The mouse that cooks, Ratatouille. We've watched those, and so we get this thing in our head from a very young age that, animals are just like us. And I've had people tell me that all the time, well, animals they're just like people. And I'm like, have you ever like stood next to a bull because like he will kill you just to kill you, just because he wants to, because you're smaller than him? They're not like people. I tell them that they need to get new friends when they tell me like that. I'm like, if your friends are treating you like chickens treat each other, please get new friends and call the police, because animals are not people. And I think that it's very easy for us to forget that, especially here in America. I don't see that nearly as much in Europe, or I have a lot of Australian followers randomly. Not sure why. I've never been to Australia. I don't know anybody who lives in Australia. But as far as international followers, they are my highest percentage in my back office for some reason. I'm not sure why, but maybe some of them live a more homesteading lifestyle. But I don't hear these arguments from anybody outside of America. It's only Americans that are like, you can't take the eggs from the chickens. That's inhumane. And I'm like, they eat their own eggs if I don't take them. Like, they're animals. They're so it's having Sunday. I think people think that dairy is just inherently, wrong, because that's what you've been taught. That's what you've been, pandered to. And that's fine. We can have a conversation about that. And I am more than willing to talk about it, because I think there is a ethical way to do dairy. There is an ethical way to raise your animals. I am a huge advocate that animals be treated properly. We have laying hens that we don't harvest. They live here on our farm, and they are egg layers. And there's a difference between meat chickens and egg laying chickens. And I think that there is an ethical way to consume dairy. And we kind of came to that realization of knowing, if you saw how dairies were and you really understood the practices that they use to just squeeze every last drop of milk out of these cows, they don't treat them even as animals, and they treat them as a number. Sunday has a tag from the dairy that we got her from, and she was numbered. She didn't have a name. And so when people tell me, animals are just like people, and you're treating them like animals. I'm like, well, they weren't even being treated like animals. They were being treated like numbers. And we now are treating them like animals. And Sunday's so spoiled. I love her. I bring her treats all the time. And, you know, we play games with her, and she's she's very sassy as well. I don't want to paint like a sunshine rainbow viewpoint for anybody thinking about getting a cow. Jerseys are known to be pretty sassy, and she is. But she's still just a sweetheart. She's like a lovable little brat. Like, I just love her. And she she is very happy to be treated like a cow. And she wasn't being treated like a cow. She was being treated like a number. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. That was awesome. I was wondering if you could touch on, so you lived in an RV when you first bought your land. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
Yes and no. Yeah,
you had halfway. A huge mold issue.
Yes. Yes, we did. Yes.
Yeah.
So let me just, I will try to be quick about our living situation, because it's definitely been a topic of conversation online. That's for sure. People are very opinionated on our living situation with our 5 children. So when we first moved to our acreage, again, there was nothing here, like nothing. Bare land, junk piles from the previous owners, and that was pretty much it. So we actually lived in a shed, which I get a lot of hate for online. But I was 18, newly married, and we had purchased a trailer from these people who were not honest people. They told us that the roof just had a small leak, but it needed to be fixed. You know, like the Titanic had a small little leak. And our roof was basically Swiss cheese, and water would flood our house every time it rained. I lost probably 70% of my possessions that first year due to flooding. It was rough. And so we lived there for, I don't know, far too long. I don't even remember how long, but a long time before our son came. And after we got pregnant, I knew that we couldn't have a baby in this trailer. We called it the metal death trap, and we all cheered for joy when it was hauled off our property. It was just the worst. The worst. Absolutely the worst. And it was just a stinky little trailer. It would be 106 degrees inside the trailer. We didn't have any kind of shade or anything like that. It was a record-breaking August. I'm 8 months pregnant, and I got heat stroke. And I told, my husband, I was like, we can't live here. Like, this is just not, it's not happening. And so there was one outbuilding on the property when we bought it. It was being used as someone's office. And I want to say it was 8 by 12. So 8 feet by 12 feet, just a little office, really. There was no electricity. There was no plumbing, nothing like that. And it really did look like a shed. There's multiple pictures of it up on my page. You can go to my tiny house highlight and just kind of see this pretty awful journey thus far. But so we decided that we were going to drywall it. We put flooring in it. We put a ceiling fan in it. We put a mattress, a couch, a crib, and a dresser. It was very crowded because this was a small room. And we lived in there because this trailer that we had was it wasn't even a trailer. That's like the most gracious term I could come up with for it, was a trailer. And so we lived in this little shed, really. It had one window. We didn't even have a curtain. I remember sitting there on my bed like, I don't even have a curtain on this one window, and it faced the back of our property. We're well from the street, so it's not like anybody could see it or anything, but it was very, when I say I understand humble beginnings, I truly mean that. We didn't have anything. We had lost a lot of I think I had like 4 dresses and 2 pairs of shoes left after all the flooding had just ruined a lot of our things. And we lived in that little shed. We kept the trailer, the metal death trap trailer, on the property because we used it for a toilet, and that was basically it. I did everything in that little shed. I got it ready for our son, and it was clean. We cleaned it up. Like I said, we insulated it. We put flooring, all the stuff, and we lived there. And then the day that I gave birth to my son, our property was on fire, and we could not come back because the firefighters had evacuated the entire mountain, and we lost a lot. No, we didn't have a lot, but what we did have, we lost in this fire. We had left the windows open because we were going to the hospital quickly with my first. And so when we came back after the fire, everything we had was just covered in ashes. I mean, inches thick layer of ashes. We stayed at a family member's house for 3 months. They weren't there. They had been on vacation out of state. So it was very helpful to us because we did have somewhere to go. We came back, we cleaned it up, and we almost just gave this whole homestead up. We wanted to sell the property. We were like, this just isn't working. You know, we now have a baby. It's just too much. It's just too much. We can't do this. And we actually listed our property for sale at that time. And we started renting a cabin just a few, like 2 miles up the road. So we were still close enough to our property that we could like check up on things and all that kind of stuff. And then we found out that our property, when we purchased it, the deed was not written correctly. We actually owned 2 properties, and we had no clue that was even like happening, that was even a thing. So we couldn't sell it until we got that title issue resolved. So long story short, $30,000 later and 5 years later, getting lawyers to fix one word on our title deed, because thank you so much, California, we decided that we did want to keep the property. We moved back to the property. We got a brand new, well, like new to us, trailer that we lived in for about, I want to say 6 years. And that trailer was great. It had a bedroom for the kids. We slept in the living room. Everything worked. There was no issues, you know. So we thought, trailer round 2. So I believe we had 3 kids. Yeah, we had 3 more kids in that trailer. So this was over the span of quite a few years. About 6 years we lived there. It was our tiny house. And that's when we started, you know, the garden. And we really were like, no, we're going to stay here. Like that was, you know, we really resolved that we wanted to homestead. We really wanted to turn this land into a full functioning homestead. And we lived in that tiny house. And that's when I started my page. I started my page right after my 3rd child was born. And we lived in this tiny house. And people did not like the fact that we lived in a tiny house with kids. They didn't think that was okay, which is hilarious to me because in any other, you know, Americans, we're so spoiled. Oh my gosh. We're just like, I almost feel like I have to put a disclaimer when I tell people I'm American. Like, I'm American, but I don't think that money grows on trees. And I'm American, but I, you know, don't just go and throw away half my refrigerator every month. So we're just so spoiled here. And I think that if you have traveled and you've seen how people in other parts of the world are living, I felt like we lived in a mansion. You know, after the shed and the metal death trap trailer, we got this new trailer. I felt like it was 375 square feet, in case you were wondering. So most people would consider that a very small living space for, what was it, the 5 of us in there. I think we actually had 4 kids in that trailer at one time. We definitely did. We had 4 kids, so that would have been 6 of us. So 6 of us in 375 square feet. The internet had a field day with that. And I don't really care because I still felt like we were blessed. You know, we had running water, we had electricity, 2 of things that we didn't have before. So I felt like, you know, we were moving up. And then you hear, you know, comments on the internet and you're just like, oh, maybe this isn't so great, but it is. You know, it was for us. It was what we knew, and we were dedicated to making things work. Plus, my kids have 12 acres to run around and play outside. So it wasn't like, you know, we were living this way, inner city, not able to go outside, we had most of our meals outside. You know, we had a table outside that we ate at most meals. So we were basically, I always say we had like wild children, like we lived outside, but we slept indoors. And, we had a shower and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, fast forward, we lived there for 6 years. It did have a couple leaks that we knew about. And we thought that we handled them. And then during my 5th pregnancy, we found out that we had mold. We had really, really severe mold. And it was everywhere. It was in like every time we opened something else, we found more mold. You could smell it when you walked into the trailer. I was getting very, very sick from it as well. And this was while I was pregnant. And so there were so many hateful comments. And so I posted a reel saying like, everybody wants to give their 2 cents, but nobody will give $2 or something like that. Like if I had $1 for every hate comment, you guys could have funded a way out of this situation basically. And I was just making a joke. I didn't think that anything would really come of it. And my friend Morgan asked if she could start a GoFundMe online, and I think her handle is like Ground Up Homemaking or something like that. And so I've never actually met her. This was a person, online that I had conversations with. Super, super sweet lady. But she said, I think you have a point there. I think if everybody just sent you $1, you have so many followers. If everybody just sent you $1, that you guys could, get out of that situation. And so we were looking at options of, okay, what are we going to do? Our house is still not ready to move into. We had multiple payments that we were doing. We couldn't make a big purchase because we were in limbo of getting a loan for our now house that I'm sitting in right now. So our followers reached out to me and messaged me asking if they could help, which was just so kind of them. And my friend Morgan started a GoFundMe for us. And within a week, I think it was a week, they had raised $6,000. And that was the amount that we needed for a down payment. So I shut it down after that. Because I don't believe in taking any more than you need. And that is truly what we needed. We needed that $6,000 so that we could put a down payment on a new trailer. I was, very pregnant and, awaiting to give birth while dealing with the mold toxicity. We had our 4 children who were starting to have some symptoms, being in the mold and just not feeling well. And so we knew we had to get out. We explored the tent idea. We explored, getting a new trailer idea. And any idea that we had required some kind of a chunk of payment. And because we were in that 3-month limbo where we could not make any large purchases, we just felt really stuck. Our church very graciously donated some money to us as well. And so as soon as we had enough money, that $6,000 from so many of my followers, and I was just so, so grateful. And I talk about it a lot on my page. I know it was a year ago, but it made such a huge impact on our life. We were talking about walking away from everything that we've ever built. And we've been going towards this goal of just getting a house on here, just this bare land and all of the things that takes. And we were honestly going to walk away from all of it because we just felt so defeated by, this crummy circumstance. And my followers really, I firmly believe that they completely changed the trajectory of our life. I don't even know if we would have a homestead anymore without them. And so as soon as we hit the mark that we needed to hit for a down payment, I shut it down. I took everything down and I said, thank you so much. We have what we need. And even after that, people were messaging me like, can I buy you? One of my followers bought me a new pregnancy pillow because we had to get rid of all of our bedding, all of our pillows. We lost so many possessions. People were sending my children toys and books because we had to throw all of theirs away. If you're not familiar with how mold works, it really infiltrates just everything, and it's not safe to bring it to your next location because then your next location can also get moldy. So the kindness of others, anytime I get a hate comment, anytime I get called yucky words, it is so small and in comparison to the community that I have, to the women who have prayed for me, have built us up, have financially supported my family during a time where we just really felt stuck. We didn't know what we were going to do. And it was life-changing, honestly life-changing. And anytime I get, because I know we've talked a lot about, the negative sides of my social media page in the beginning of this episode, but it is so small to the mass amounts of good people that I have found. I truly feel like I said this the other day, I was like, I found 100,000 of the best humans on earth. Like, my followers are so kind. They're so compassionate, and they're so kind. And time and time and time again, I see them come and rally on my behalf and for my sake. And when somebody comments something hateful, immediately almost I will see a comment from somebody that I've actually talked to, for the last couple years, and say, like, you don't know Gracie, you're intentionally taking what she said and trying to twist it because, like, I know her and I know she didn't mean it that way. And I'm so thankful for that, because I would hope that I've been able to be really open and really honest. I'm an open book, like, obviously. I'll talk about anything. I could talk to a lamppost, but I've been really open with everybody, and I've also been really open about, like, the struggles that I face, and I would hope that people would be able to see how thankful we are and how grateful we are that I don't feel like I have a social media platform. I don't feel like an influencer. I hate that word. I get called it a lot, but I don't feel that way. I feel like a really lucky person who found amazing people online. And that's truly how I feel. I feel like a person who found the good side of social media. I believe that it's a tool, and I feel like I found all these awesome women who pray for me and encourage me and support me, and I would hope that I'm able to also encourage them and support them and lift them up. And there's been times where, when we had extra, we gave it, and I'm so thankful that there were people in my life who, when they had, their $2, they gave it to me too. So I'm incredibly thankful for this profile and this platform that I have, and it wasn't my intention to build a platform, but here we are. I think that I just kind of put it out there, and God did what He was going to do with it, and now I have all these amazing Christian women that I get to talk to every day, and there's so many benefits. It's not just yes, we have a new trailer now that we were able to put a down payment on, and then now we just pay for it monthly, and it didn't affect our loan any. I'm sitting in our house now, so it all worked out in the end. But it's not even just about that for me. Like, knowing how many people were praying for my family is incredibly humbling.
Well, we had a couple more questions we wanted to ask Gracie, but we have been having a number of technical issues across this episode recording. So we're going to go ahead and close it out here. And if you're watching the video version of this, you get to see Gracie in her fridge because her phone overheated, just like mine did earlier in the episode. Just lots of real life happening here. But it has been absolutely a pleasure to talk to you, Gracie, and to listen to you and hear more about your story and your background, where you came from, and where you are now, and just a testament of the amazing community that you've built on Instagram. It's been so wonderful to see, how you have supported other women through that platform, and they have supported you and your family as well. That's so wonderful, and I love that you've been able to create that. And so I don't know if you have any last remarks that you want to say, or likewise for you, Sophia, before we close out the episode.
Yeah, just again, I'm so grateful, and I really want to reiterate that, of the community that has surrounded me in our pretty intense journey of motherhooding and homesteading. Motherhooding, that's not a word, you know what I mean, of my motherhood through with my homestead as well. It's really hard to do what I am doing, and it's even harder to do it alone. And so I would really, just if you can find a community. My community is online. I have a very small in-person community, but if you can find community, I think that is really a deciding factor of if you're going to make it or break it, because there's going to be days where you just don't feel like showing up. And my community is amazing and wonderful, and I have found some just gems of human beings that, you know, pray for me and encourage me in what I'm doing. And I would hope that even in a small way, you know, that my page would be of any encouragement to somebody else, then I'm happy with that. You know, my goals are small goals, but it's just to make people encouraged and know that this lifestyle, should you choose it, is difficult. So you should have some good, strong people by your side to encourage you to keep up the good fight, because I do believe that it's worth it. It's just, it's an amazing way to live. I am a huge advocate for it, but I would hope that anybody who's considering homesteading with your children, just be encouraged that it's not just for your kids, it's also for further generations. Thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be here. So it's so lovely to meet you both. And I hope that we can do this again sometime, preferably not in my fridge, but, you know, it's that Southern California summers for you, so.
We are in Texas and Georgia, so
okay, you guys get it.
Get it. Understand. Yeah, but I just love what you said earlier, and I will take that from this podcast, that if you can have a good morning, you can have a good day. And I think that's just an awesome approach to, like you said, to mothering and to homesteading and just all the things that life throws at us. If we can just, you know, forge ahead, just have a good day, just, you know, move on to the next one. But thank you so much for coming on and talking to us, and to all of our listeners here at Motherhood Podcast. This is the end of our episode, and we will see you guys back here next week for season 2, episode 2. Thank you so much, Gracie.
Thank you.